GameStop. If you're anything like the average person, you're probably wondering why you're hearing about a company that you haven't visited since middle school back in the 90s. But if you've been listening, if you can hear, you've heard people talking about GameStop this week. So today we're going to explain GameStop using Miso soup. So if you're wondering what is shorting a stock, why is everybody going crazy, and what is the war going on between retail investors and Wall Street, we're going to break it down. Let's get it. Alright, so I went out to sushi with my friend this week, and GameStop was being brought up at the table next to us. And I said, have you heard about this GameStop phenomenon? Which almost everybody has by now. But not a lot of people really understand what is shorting a stock and why is the price of GameStop going crazy. So I looked across the table and saw my friend was eating miso soup and decided this was the best way to explain it. Now imagine you're at a sushi restaurant and they serve miso soup. And you have an insider tip or a hunch based on your research that this weekend they're going to hold a huge sale on miso soup and they're going to discount the price of their soup by about 50%. Maybe it's because people aren't buying as much miso soup, public perception of miso soup is down, or there's some news coming out about miso soup that's going to cause people to want less of it and they're going to have to discount the price in order to sell their existing stock. Now let's say that you go to this sushi restaurant today and you say, hey, can I borrow 10 servings of miso soup and pay you market price for the soup on Saturday? And the shop says, sure, no problem. You pay us what we're selling it for. We don't mind if you pay us 3 or 4 days later. So you borrow that soup and you go out there and you sell that soup for $5 a cup for each miso soup. Now let's say Saturday comes and soup has been discounted to $2 a cup. They're now selling it on sale. They're having a special weekend sale of the soup for $2 a cup because they have too much soup and not enough people want it. Now all of a sudden you've sold the soup for $5 and you go back and you pay them for those 10 cups of soup at $2 a piece. What did you just do? You just borrowed the soup, you sold it for $5, and then you paid it back at $2 a piece. You made $3 per cup of soup profit by borrowing the shares from the company. Now that is what shorting stock is. You borrow the shares from a market maker, somebody who already owns the stock, you sell it in hopes that the price will go down, and when you have to pay back those shares, somebody says, where are my 10 shares of miso soup? You pay off those shares at a discount and you make the spread. Now the problem here occurs when, let's say that you think miso soup is going to go down this weekend. And so you buy 10 cups of miso soup at $5. Well, what happens? A bunch of tourists come to town and they're all out of miso soup. Everybody wants miso soup because it's cold outside, and the price of miso soup goes up to $10 because there's so much demand for it. Now what happens? You borrowed the soup at $5. You already sold it at $5, and now the restaurant calls and they say, where's our 10 cups of miso soup at $10 a piece? And you say, well, I only bought it at $5, and they say, we sell it for $10 now, that's what you have to pay. Now all of a sudden you're losing $5 for each cup of soup. That's what happens when you short a stock and the price of the stock goes up, like hedge funds did with GameStop. Now why did this happen? Let's say that you're shorting miso soup and you start trash talking miso soup. You start spreading lies about it in the media. You start getting people to not want miso soup, and you start selling tons and tons of borrowed miso soup on the market to drive down the price, right? That's basic microeconomics. The more soup that is available and the less people that want it, the lower the price has to go in order to sell that soup. And all of a sudden Reddit says, hey, why are you bringing down the price of miso soup so much? We're big fans of the miso soup industry and we don't want you to hurt the miso soup company like that. We don't want you to hurt the sushi shop by driving down the price of their miso soup by selling more of it on the open market. So when somebody goes into the sushi shop and they say, yeah, I'd like to buy miso soup for $5 a cup, and they say, well, I can get it over there for $3 a cup because there's so much of it available. That's going to drive down the price of a stock when you short it and you bring more shares available for sale on the open market. And so hedge funds will do this to short a stock. They'll manipulate the price by bringing massive amounts of shares for sale, by going on crusades against the company to bring negative media to attention so the shares drop. They'll do whatever they can to get those shares to decrease in price, and they'll manipulate the market so that they can buy back those shorted shares of miso soup at a lower price than they borrowed them at and make their spread. This is how shorting works. Now, it doesn't work every time. People tried to short Tesla this year and they got their ass handed to them because the price just kept going up and up and up. So their estimate that the price of Tesla would go down, that there wouldn't be sufficient demand for that many shares of Tesla, was wrong. So that's the risk in shorting. There's an upside if the price goes down, but there's unlimited downside if the price goes up. And so what happened was Wall Street traders were shorting shares of GameStop. They were borrowing the shares and then selling them in hopes of buying them back at a lower price. And Reddit decided no more of this market manipulation by hedge funds. We're going to screw them. We're going to band together as 2.4 million people, and we're just going to keep buying that miso soup until there's so much demand for it that the restaurant raises the price over and over again. That market maker raises the price of the soup over and over again. So when the hedge fund goes to buy back the soup, it's $20 a cup, or $30 a cup, or $40 a cup. And they're out a whole lot of money. Now, if you decided to go in and you buy the miso soup and the price keeps going up and up, of course you can sell it at a profit as the price goes up. But what's going to happen? Eventually, people are going to realize the price of miso soup has been artificially inflated. Not that many people actually want the soup, and so the price is going to come skyrocketing down. But first, the mainstream media is going to talk about it, and they're going to say, this guy made $30 million buying miso soup. And all of a sudden, your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your parents, your plumber are going to say, you know what, maybe I should invest in some miso soup. And they go out there and they buy GameStop. And we have what is called the greater fool's theory. And that means the early people buying GameStop just need to get out in time before there are no more greater fools. And the last person holding the soup is left holding the bag, and they're going to lose all their money, as we've seen GameStop come crashing down this week, which was the inevitable conclusion. You know, when your long lost friend, when your sister, when your brother, when your relative who knows nothing about investing is saying, I think it's time to get into investing, I think I should buy GameStop, you know that stock is about to come crashing down because the greater fools are rushing in and it will return to its fundamentals soon. And so that price of that stock got pumped up by Redditors buying and buying and buying and buying so that the Wall Street traders could not sell at a loss. Greater demand always increases price. The price will go up as long as there is demand. As soon as the big accounts stopped buying the stock, the price crashed down to market rates. What miso soup is really worth. That's what happened this week. Wall Street was going to short the stock. Reddit drove the price up by bringing in crazy amounts of demand, and the mainstream media had a field day out of it. People judged the Redditors for manipulating the stock price by bringing up demand, although this is what hedge funds do all the time. They drive supply and demand and manipulate it for their own purposes. It started a war between retail traders, which is everyday people like you and me, and institutional investors and giant hedge funds who have billions of dollars to invest. And all of a sudden, the people with the power said, hey, it's not fair that they're manipulating market demand. And the Redditors said, you've been doing this all along. And at the same time, Robinhood shut down trading on GME, saying they had regulatory requirements. They were required to cover a certain percentage of deposits, and they were unable to do so because of so much demand and volatility. Now, was this purely a regulatory move to make sure they stay compliant, to make sure they stay liquid? Or were they screwing the little guy, the demand of the giant hedge fund investors? That's something that hasn't come to light yet, but something that has come to light is the mainstream media is not on the retail investor's side.
This is not going to end well when it ends.
They've started to smear these people, to question their legitimacy, to say that these people are not allowed to do the things that large hedge funds have been doing for decades. So let me know in the comments. Did you hear about GME this week? Did you invest? Did you wonder maybe I should get into investing just because something is going to the moon? And do you realize that the greater fool's theory comes into place? And if you think that you can make quick, easy, get rich quick money without actually learning skills and getting good at something and being at the forefront, you're probably the greater fool rushing in. Don't buy too much miso soup unless you really want to hold on to that soup for a long time. That's all for today. I hope this helped you understand what shorting a stock is, what happened with GME, hedge funds, and Redditors. It's Christian, the Work from Anywhere guy. I'll see ya on the next one.